Today I am an alcoholic addict. My name's Jorden Matthias. Today my cup is full. I was actually just doing some pretty cool stuff with my brother and giving back to the community, and I find that's the most satisfying feeling, giving back to others. So often when we do these talks, we talk about what it was like, what happened and what it's like today. I've been sober since July 20th, 2015, and my story in sobriety has changed over the last 5 years, and for the better. I mean, it's a work in progress. And when I first got sober, it would be easy for me to play a victim, blame all kinds of different things in my life on why I became alcoholic or addicted to certain drugs. And I'm sure there are many factors in my life growing up that did lead to me finding an escape in drugs, particularly to smoking pot as a kid. I was probably 12 years old the first time I smoked anything. It would have been a roach that I stole off of something that was easily accessible to me. But that's not the truth. I think, honestly, I did find escape in that, but that's not what makes me an alcoholic or an addict. What I've come to understand is what makes me that type is the fact that I truly didn't like the way I felt when I was sober. And that did offer me an escape from that. I've got all kinds of cool war stories. I mean, many alcoholic addicts do. Some don't, but mine was pretty colorful, and man, we've got all kinds of stories. I've been shot at. I've been in many places where I had no business being in. I've had my jaw broken. All these things happened. I had some things happen to me while I was sober too that weren't specifically of good nature, but the most part, I've heard it said like this, and I like to reiterate it. It is like this. Not every time I drank and used substances did I get into trouble, but every time I was in trouble, I was drinking or drugging, and that was my life. And for many years, I was talking to my daughter about this actually today. It's funny we're doing this. I was a weekend warrior for years. In fact, a couple of decades. It was the final, about 5 years at the end where it got really bad. But for about 20 years, it was pretty fun. I'll be honest, even with the intervals of the bad things that happened, impairs. Thank God I never killed anyone or hurt myself in an automobile wreck or what have you. But what I was saying is every weekend would be the party. So self-proclaimed weekend warrior, if you will. But the truth is, all week long that I wasn't drinking or doing whatever, I was thinking about it. And looking back now, I didn't know that then, but I do now. I was always working for the weekend, if you will. And as it progressed, those weekends, or even just a Friday night turned into an entire weekend, but I'd be the guy who would get product for my friends and and I would step on or cut up that product, do the shitty stuff with them while having good stuff in my pocket. I don't think any of it was good, to be honest with you. It was just an escape, I guess. But that's pretty shady. It's the guy who would steal your wallet and help you look for it. I think that was me. So anyways, we had really good times, but I'll say it like this. I played in a band with my brother and friends and multiple bands over the years. And not that we weren't a good band, but I remember like a whole week of just can't wait to get to the weekend where we're going to play a gig, for instance. And what would end up happening is excitement. I'm ready for the gig, and what it would look like for me that night would be, I'd get a couple in me to level out, just to calm the nerves a bit, do a little of this, and now I've lost the moment altogether that I've been waiting for all weekend. And as we're playing, I can't wait to get into the bathroom or out into the parking lot and carry on with what we were doing. So the things that I loved and I was passionate about started to slip away as a result of my obsession with the substances. I hope that makes sense. I started to fall harder when I got addicted in with the opioids, and I had to see. I was so bad at it. I got kicked out of the methadone clinic because I kept my urine samples were dirty every week, and I missed a couple of days in a row. I can't really remember how it all worked out. It's been a while, but I ended up having to restart the program, and I ended up just not going back. So it was a vicious game of me buying products off the street to level myself out. It got to the point where I needed it to get out of bed. I needed it to maintain my day. I needed it to go to sleep at night. And I needed it if I was going to do any type of work whatsoever. And it just became a necessity. I'm the kind of guy who would euphorically get high from a text message from a friend saying they have product. See, it's not even in my system yet, but I know it's coming, so I feel better. And that's just the way it was, and it got really bad. So when my mother got sick with cancer, this was leading up to the end for me. I just emotionally couldn't process that information, I guess. And I couldn't really be a father to my kids or a brother to my brother, and just couldn't be a son to my mom. Right? I was impaired, like more often than not. And with the pills, I could cover it up. I think I know I was losing weight and not eating or whatever, but then I started to even get worse. When my mom was diagnosed with the cancer, I went from the cocaine and smoking crack, and that was it. So for me, it was the crack and the heroin. I would smoke the substance, and then I would need the heroin to come down from it was just a disgusting, endless chase. It was an endless chase, and it was very tiring. And I found myself, my ex-wife, she said to me one night, she's like, "Jorden, you need help, you're gonna die." And we've called it detox. And I was introduced to recovery, and I had no idea whatsoever about any recovery. And anyhow, I was willing to maybe make a change at the time, and that would start my road to recovery. I ended up in the detox where I live, in the town where I live, and I was really sick coming off of substances, and a couple of days in, I was offered to go to a 12-step meeting, and it was for alcoholics. And I thought to myself, well, I'm just here to get off of the really dirty stuff. I'm still going to drink beers and do cocaine when I get out of here on the weekends. I'm going back to the way it was for me for 20 years. And that wouldn't be the situation. I'll say it like this. I ran into a guy. I went to that meeting because they had real coffee. And I was sick, right? And I could smoke cigarettes. I still smoked back then. And a guy was standing there shaking hands. I'll say his name's Terry, and he's a good friend of mine. Yeah, I'm grateful to that man. But he happened to be shaking hands at the door of this meeting, and he asked me if I would keep an open mind and to listen for the similarities rather than the differences, because I could find a lot of differences in a lot of people. And sure enough, it's a woman in her 50s wearing a flowered dress, and how the hell am I going to relate to anybody like that? This punk, sick and dirty drug addict. Well, I was sitting there listening, and she said a few things, and I was listening, but I just wasn't relating until she finally said something like, she recalled Saturday morning, beautiful sunny July day, and her two little kids running around the living room, diapers soggy and wet, and all they want to do is go outside and play with their mother. And I heard that. Like, I heard that, and I related to it, and I lost it. I started to cry, and that started my journey in recovery. I would slip and fall for about 2 years, in and out of the detox center, treatment centers, the CMHA offered counseling. I was on like a welfare system, and I had all these avenues, a day program at the hospital, anger management programs. I was offered many avenues of help, and I did take them. It took a few false starts until I really got serious with it. But I just remember the last night, I have a son. He was, at the time, he's 18 years old or 17 or whatever, however it worked out. And I'm the parent who let you party at home, right? Because I know where you are. But it got to the point where I wanted him there, and I had access to whatever he was doing because he was up to no good himself. And ended up getting in a fist fight with him and one of his buddies this particular night. This is the final night I ever picked up a drink or a drug. And I was in my home. My daughters were upstairs. My ex-wife and my son's in the basement with a buddy or two, and they're partying down there. My son's dying himself. And I was standing in the front foyer at my house, and I had this overwhelming feeling that I had never felt so alone, like, ever in my life, even though my whole family was in the house with me. It choked me up to go back there. And I finally asked for help. And when I honestly asked for that help, it came. And these two people came to my door. They were engaged to be married, and I knew them from being in and out of recovery and these 12-step meetings. And I just asked for help, and my kid was actually able to locate them. They came to my door. It was a late Sunday night, I believe. So it would have been July 19th, 2015. And I had some 40 Creek on me in a bottle, and I had some product in my pocket, and I never finished it. But when they came to my door, I was about 118 pounds. I was sick and dirty, and I was on my way out. But they came, and the man, he said to me, he said, "Jorden, I don't give a fuck what happened to you, where you came from, who you know, what you did. I don't care about any of that. What I care about are your actions moving forward." And I think for the first time in my life, I realized that it was time for me to take responsibility for my own life, for my own actions. And then he said something else to me, and it was like, "Why don't you just give this thing here everything you've got?" And what he meant was, why don't you just give this recovery a try, an honest try? And I put everything I had into recovery, and I've been sober since. And that's where the story gets good, you know. See, my kids had saw over a couple of years this dad who would get a little bit of clean time in, and they'd see a little bit of bright sky right ahead, and then I'd go back out, and it would get worse than it was when I stopped the last time, so on and so forth, and it didn't get any better. And this time around, when I actually put some honest effort into my responsibility for my own recovery, that's when things started to change. And I was about 3 or 4 months sober, and my son came to me, and he said, "Dad, I called the detox. I'm going to check in there." I have a 23-year-old son who's over 5 years sober. My brother, he's like 3 years sobriety. Not quite. But he said, I remember he texted me one night and he said, "How do you do it?" And I just knew. He's like, how can you sleep at night? And I just told him a few things. And he's like, maybe I can give this thing a try too. So like the whole family recovers. My daughters, I have a young daughter who's 10 now, who she doesn't really remember the lifestyle. I'm grateful for that, And then my daughter who's 19 now, she was pretty young and she had some issues. She was self-harming, and I remember coming home one night. I was sober, and she was driving by me in the back of a cop car. One of her friend's mothers had called the police because she was threatening suicide, and my daughter was formed, in the mental health ward, and that started her journey too. So I like to think that our actions do play major roles in other people's lives, and so my daughter, in another sense, is in recovery herself for just as long, right? And we all heal, and she's one of my best friends today. We have a great relationship. We have communication. We don't stuff shit under the rug. We talk about things, spirituality, all kinds of what makes us tick, what's going on with the internal condition, and it's a life I never wanted. I never asked for it. Well, in a sense, I asked for it. I just didn't know it yet, and but it's been great. The life I have today, I owe 100% to recovery, to sobriety, and I also owe 100% to addiction and the fact that I wanted to die. Because if I didn't go through all that pain and suffering, I wouldn't have found a spot where I was honestly ready to ask for help. And I haven't looked back since. There's days, I'll be honest with you, I don't smoke cigarettes, I don't smoke marijuana, I don't do anything that will alter my mind. I drink coffee, and there's days, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I get depressed, anxiety will kick in, but the thing that affects me most would be depression, and I can be paralyzed, but it's easy to hide behind a smile, but I have resources and I have tools, and I try not to hide behind my smile, and I try to let people know when I'm off or when I'm not well. I can be paralyzed and not even be able to get out of my bed, but something just keeps me moving and I can get up and get going. I've had relationships with people. There are some who think I should be medicated, perhaps, but for the most part, I've got a pretty good outlet. I have an amazing team and a support group of many, many people I'm very grateful today to have in my corner. And one of the things I've learned most here is that when I get out of myself and I help others, that's the real gift. That's the real high, to be able to give back to others. And that's it. That's my message. I don't have to get high and drunk. And like I said in the beginning, where it's like I used to drink and drug because I didn't like the way I felt when I was sober. I feel damn good now that I'm sober. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know today I'm not going to get messed up. I have no desire to. People often ask me, as a musician, how do I do it? How do I play in the bars under the circumstances and what's going on around me? And the best way I can put it is that I am no longer attracted to the lifestyle that I once lived. Now when we go in there, we play music. Our whole band is not necessarily in recovery, but we're all sober, and that's a pretty cool thing. Not many bands around will do what we do, and I'll say that. We'll get up there, we'll start, and we will play for 4 hours straight. And it's ridiculous, but that's what we do, and I love it. It's not about, look at me, or who's got what, or who am I sizing up. And I'll say this, in all of my sobriety, I'm going on 6 years of sobriety, nobody has hurt me. I pay my bills today. I'm accountable to people, and I owe it all to those who came before me and all those who helped me today, because I'm talking everybody in the recovery world, those from my counselors I had early on to those I can still reach out to, some I'm still in touch with, and just like those people who stood behind me the whole way, and I've got an amazing team of people in my corner, and I'm in their corner as well. So that's it. I just wanted to give you a little briefing. All the old war stories are a lot of fun to look back at and wonder how the hell we survived them. But ultimately, I wouldn't trade this recovery life that I have today for anything in this world. I'm very grateful today.